I will go ahead and kind of walk through how I diagnose disease and how it's obviously a little bit different than the traditional medical astrology that we are in the modern age. So modern medicine is something that I still rely on. And then we looked at the symptoms, looked it up online. We boiled it down to a couple of things, but he had a good indication that it was likely some sort of iris condition. So there were particular symptoms with that. And so we went off that that's what it probably is. And since it's only affecting one eye, it wouldn't be some sort of infectious thing. There's no, like, any kind of secretions or any kind of discharge coming out of it. It's not swelling shut. He can still see. There's no weird, like, yellow or brownish coloring to it. Sensitivity to light. It's burning, itching. It's just really red and looks really irritated. He hasn't been exposed to anything as far as we know. So knowing that we think it might be iritis or whatever, I know acute irisitis. Okay, there we go. There's a couple. I was looking through some older books, and one of them said iritis or something. The name of it's not important per se. It's the symptoms that I'm going for, and then because it's a Saturday, and also because I have very little faith in the medical facilities that are within this area because of previous experiences, and thanks to Obamacare, I try to remedy it myself. That and also a lot of artificial band-aids, synthetic band-aids, kind of prescription drugs doesn't really help the immune system fight it off. It's just that's like a serious intervention kind of thing for like antibiotics if it's something that can't be remedied through natural herbs and stuff. So kind of go into just my whiteboard that I was making some notes on. So now this is just, going over how I do this, and also this will help anybody who happens to either be experiencing something similar, i.e. having similar chart signatures, and or anybody who has this in the future, or just, for notes. Feel free to use it however you like. So for health, I wrote down, so the iris would be affected by either Aquarius, Aries, or the planet Mars. So that could obviously be either of those signs in Mars, or it could be Mars in the 11th house, in the first house, and et cetera, et cetera. So, and then irritation is also associated with Mars because it's inflammation. Irregularity or irregular conditions would be Uranus, because then the eyeballs are directly associated with Aries. Eye problems are attributed to the sun, and then it's his left eye that's bothering him. So male's left eye is associated with the moon. So if anybody wasn't aware, last night, since today's the full moon in Leo, opposition between Pluto and the moon. So, and that plays a significant role in the person's chart in particular that we're talking about. So then I wrote down associations with eye disorders. So any aspects with the sun and the moon, any planets or angular points that would be associated with Aries or Libra, and then also the moon and Mars and Neptune, either aspecting the sun or the moon, and any personal planets in mutable signs. And then also specifically, these will be the ones that'll be the triggers. 29 degrees of Taurus, 9 degrees of Sagittarius, or 29 degrees of Sagittarius. And then I wrote down eye disease too, even though I don't really think that this is an eye disease per se, because it came really no other symptoms associated with it that I could confirm would be eye disease. So I just wrote down, the sun and Neptune aspecting, and the sun and the moon aspecting, and then moon and Neptune aspecting. So obviously I have quite a bit of a list. I just had eye disorders and eye disease. Now I actually did determine which one it is, and I'm going to go into that on. Alrighty, so keep in mind those different signatures that I went over on my whiteboard, and you'll notice that they are lining up here and they're very prominent within this exact chart. So this chart was mapped out for the exact location and time frame that he started to feel irritations within his eye. So let's go ahead and go over some of those exact points that I was talking about. So 29 degrees in Taurus is on the midhaven for 7:41 p.m. So he said about 7:30ish he was feeling like this, and I just sped it forward and happened to get the exact degrees. Since we didn't actually record the time, we don't know the exact time frame that he started to experience these, but these make perfect sense with what the symptoms and the chart signatures would entail. So, like I said, there's that 29 degrees in Taurus. Midheaven is one of the most prominent angular points in the chart. And then you see there's a semi-square that goes down to Mercury. So Mercury is in Capricorn. He also has his natal Neptune in Capricorn as well. So those will be overlapping right now. Then you notice that we have the Venus quintile with the Midheaven in Taurus. And notice that they're both at 29 degrees. So Taurus and 29 degrees was one of the signatures for the symptoms, and then 29 degrees in Sagittarius, which is also a mutable sign. Then we look at the moon, which is occupying the 11th house, which is associated with Aquarius and trauma, and that's also the native moon sign in Cancer. And then it has a square with Uranus and Aries, so that represents obviously Aquarius, which could be associated with the Iris, irritation, which is associated with Aries, and then irregularity, which is associated with Aquarius, in the 8th house of Scorpio, which is disease and infection. So that's where those two are coinciding together. So his moon actually lining up with this triggered that potential trauma. And then again, like I said, there's the Venus signature, which is affecting this as well. Venus is also associated with the female. So then you see Neptune on the descendant and Chiron right there, and they're in opposition with Jupiter in the 1st house. So, and he also has a Virgo MC as well as a Pisces IC. So the fact that he actually started feeling this at home says that this chart is actually lining up for probably the correct time frame here. And then we look again here, as I said, Mercury and Pluto are exactly on top of each other. So, and they would be overlapping on his Neptune in Capricorn. And then there's a square that finishes off this T-square with Uranus. And then obviously we have the moon that is in direct opposition with Mercury. So these are all the prominent chart signatures that would be indicating that this would be some sort of eye disorder or irritation, possible bacterial infection. And the only thing that makes me emphasize on the infection is the fact that there is this trine with Mars to Neptune, and then you see the semi-square that goes right up to Cancer. So this person in particular has issues with infection, and with Mars having to do with inflammation and irritation, and Scorpio associated with actual infection or infectious diseases, and also Neptune is correlated with that as well. That would be why I would associate this with a bacterial infection. So I have a couple of my favorite books here that I always rely on. So I obviously have the Astrology, Nutrition, and Health, which is by Robert Jansky. It's a very good book. I would definitely recommend it. This book, I have no idea where you'll ever get it. I actually found it at a thrift store for like $1. And I actually got this one from Half Price Books, and this one is very good as well. This one has a little bit more detail than this one. This one goes into how to make your own herbal remedies. And then I also... this is my other trusty one. I love this one. It's just lists of conditions. This book is definitely nifty because then that's how I can make lists like this if I don't recall all of the signatures. I particularly like to do teas. I know that there's ways I can do syrups and stuff, but teas are just something I can do very quickly. So I have... there are many types of eye problems. Most people experience at least one in their lifetime. Could have bloodshot, dry, burning, dry, infected, irritated, sensitive to light, watery. Descriptive list of common eye issues is lengthy. I'll just skip down to recommended action. So for general eye health, a good whole food diet is necessary. Diet high in broccoli, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, green vegetables, squash, sunflower seeds, watercress is best. So definitely get him some sunflower seeds ASAP. I can do that, and I'll make him some carrot juice maybe tomorrow. It says whole grains are very good for the eyes, while white flour is not. Dairy and sugar should be kept at a minimum. Carrot juice and cod liver oil is excellent for eye health. So any of those fish oil pills especially would help. And it recommends cold fish and seafood, but I would not recommend that with the Neptune square going on right now, because that is indicating some sort of high level toxicity with our ocean water. And if you actually do a little bit of research with some international issues, Japan's Fukushima tsunami, earthquake or whatever disaster thing, they have actually been leaking and having to release nuclear or toxic nuclear waste into the ocean. And now there's a high level of radiation contaminants being registered off of the west coast of the United States. Herbs, it says eyebright, golden seal root, essential fatty acids, bayberry, which he's already taking that supplement that was available in an actual vitamin pill at any general grocery store or organic store or vitamin store or whatever. And then there's raspberry leaves, which I would stay away from those because I know he can't take raspberry ketone things. Chamomile, which I usually give him in some teas that I make him anyway. It helps with insomnia and any kind of anxiety. And then there's combinations of fungreek, golden seal. Unfortunately, I don't have golden seal with me because I have goldenrod, and apparently I don't know if that was a mix-up I did at the organic store at some point, but yeah, I can't use it. It's not the same. FYI, golden seal and goldenrod are not the same thing. And so I have this, and then it says for nutritional supplements, you can take beta carotene, B complex, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, copper, and L-glycerine. So that's the general gist for that. Let's do Taurus, Aries, and actually Virgo, Cancer. Aries, and Cancer. Okay, so I actually try to label these. So that one, he is also a Leo sun. So it said that it has to do with sun, and that the condition has to do with sun. And there's a Virgo symbol on that, so I'll go ahead and use that one. So that's fennel. Lemon balm has Cancer. I'm not totally sure if I want to use that one. That one's not labeled. Skullcap. Fungreek. Aha. So see this one? He has that Capricorn Neptune, which is associated with this condition. Then he's got, we obviously have Mars in Scorpio right now. He's also a Plutonian because of his rising sign. And it has to do with Taurus. So I'm definitely going to take that one. And then chamomile is associated with Capricorn, Leo, and Cancer. And this also has that calming effect. And he also has some insomnia issues sometimes. So I'm going to use that one. And licorice root. Licorice root because it said Aries and Libra. He also has his native Mars in Libra. So that would make sense to use that one. Yarrow flowers. Aquarius and Pisces. Alrighty, so then I've got these ones here. I'm definitely gonna keep the chamomile and the yarrow flowers. I believe it said fungreek would be one of the good combinations with that. So I don't try to overload this because a lot of these actually help aid or remedy similar conditions. So sometimes mixing a lot of these is the same effect as overdosing. So I just try to keep it simple, honestly. And I just like to add lavender because lavender helps with disinfectant and inflammation. Add a little bit of thyme with that. And always add some sage. You can never have too much sage. So that's going to be the base of my tea right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and brew this for him and then give it to him. And I would likely give this to him 3 to 6 cups a day. If you didn't want to drink that much tea, luckily he's a tea fan, then it would be best to make a syrup or some sort of condensed version, which there are recipes for that. But like I said, tea's just a lot easier and it helps you keep up with your hydration. So this is usually my best route. So I'm going to do this, and also I've been applying cold packs and hot packs to his eye, and he's also has sterilized eye drops. We're going to try this for a couple days, since it being a Saturday, there's nothing I can really do anyway, and we'll see if it gets better or if it gets worse, and if it doesn't, then we will then consult a physician about getting antibiotics to clear up the condition. A traditional kettle, or however you want to do it for the teas. Some people even get them pre-bagged, and yes, I do actually offer these teas and specific custom teas, as well as just archetypal teas for any zodiac sign for certain ailments. So I just have, obviously, like my traditional little molar thing. I just use this little mini Mr. Coffee. Alrighty, so I don't have an exact system with how much I add. I just kind of take it by ear because it depends on what I'm mixing, and also depends on the person, I guess, their tastes, because sometimes I can make these really potent and they do not taste very good. But I mean, most medicines aren't necessarily there for flavor. Most people know. So this is my ground sage, stuff that you can just get in like the, like the herb section in a cooking area works too. Ground sage works just as well because then I don't actually have to smash it up. That's me being a lazy Libra, cutting corners, it works. And then again, obviously I just bought this from like basic store cooking. I actually get some of these from the dollar store, no joke. I just make sure like where it came from. Just do a couple Google searches because things from China, no offense China, I'm not trying to be mean, but you guys tend to take a lot of shortcuts to manufacture stuff in mass quantities, and a lot of it might be potentially toxic or not good for you. So then I'm gonna add the chamomile here. And just because I've done a couple of teas where they have like lengthy ingredients, amounts of ingredients, but since this doesn't seem to have too much going on, I'm just doing a half of a tablespoon for each. I'm gonna actually add a whole tablespoon of chamomile because there's no real side effects with that, and it just helps calm him down and also helps with inflammation. Got the yarrow flowers again, which helps remedy any kind of issues with Pisces or Aquarius. And seeing as Uranus is associated with Aquarius and also Neptune is associated with Pisces, that would be why I picked this specifically. So I'll just do a half a teaspoon of yarrow flowers. We have the fungreek, which helps with signatures that are involved with Taurus and Scorpio and Capricorn. So Capricorn being the sign that Mercury and Pluto are currently in right now, which is a part of that T-square, and with his natal Neptune, which is associated with eye disorders, being Capricorn, this just seems like this will fit with that. And then also because it has the Taurus signature, that 29 degrees in Taurus is attributed to this condition. Let's add a little bit more. So it's a little bit over a half a teaspoon of fungreek. And last but not least, lavender. Lavender honestly doesn't really add too much to it. You notice I don't even have any signs associated with this because I don't know if I'm just obsessed with lavender, but lavender just goes good with everything. You can use it for aromatherapy, you can use it for, perfume, you can use it for disinfectant, inflammation. It's got a lot of nice qualities. And as long as somebody doesn't object to lavender, because some people just don't like it, I always add it. I usually don't show people this, but it's like not a huge secret. I just have, like pre-packaged purchase teas. I had this mulling spice tea. I'm not totally sure why the hell I bought this in the first place, why this was in my cabinet, but it smells really good, and it actually helps cover up some of the not very pleasant tastes in some of the teas, because I'm not gonna lie, some of these herbs don't taste very good. So I found that this pairs really well with honey, and I like to add a little bit of honey to my teas, well, at least mine personally, and at least for people that I know aren't a fan of teas, I like to add like cinnamon honey cream, organic cinnamon honey cream, and it helps sweeten it up a little bit and make it would be more tolerable to drink multiple times throughout the day. Smash it up there until it's pretty much granulated in there. Some ingredients like the fungreek, it's kind of like hard seeds, unless you really like hardcore want to like bust out the NutriBullet or something just to break it up. Like it's not gonna happen, especially like valerian root, like things that are actually root based. It's just not gonna happen. It's not worth the time. If you just use it to put in a kettle or in one of those little wire mesh things that you can put inside of a cup of tea, that works just as well. So then I just add this right in here. I just have this little like net thing, you can essentially put a coffee filter in there, or I just wash it out. It's not that big of a deal. Just make sure if you ever do it that way, you pour those out. Not very pleasant when you have to clean that out because you let herbs sit in there for a while and they're wet and moldy. Make sure it's on. You just treat it like a normal coffee pot or however you decide you want to do it. I do have like an old school kettle I can do in the kitchen, but I prefer this because this is nice. Because then I wouldn't have to go all the way downstairs to do this demo. Yay. I just have to wait till it filters through. And also, depending on how potent or how much I put in here, I actually sometimes do run through this multiple times. So I filled it up enough to do 3 cups. And so I'll split this into 2 cups between him, depending on how much he wants. And I can just brew another cup if I want to right afterwards. I've noticed that it filters through multiple times, at least twice, for you to do 2 different brews. Just so you kind of get, more bang for your buck. Like I said too, anybody who's interested in teas like this, I can do custom teas. And I can even prepackage them in like little... Actually, I think I have... Oh yeah, I do. Okay. So it's nothing like fancy or anything like that. It's actually for Libra, so yeah, I forgot I totally had some of these packed in here. And I could make them for pretty much anything. There's a Scorpio one and a Leo one. Yeah. So like I said, I can make them custom for anybody who has a particular condition such as this, or there's just generalized herbs that are associated with each sign. This is just a basic list, so you can see here that there's certain herbs that are attributed to each sign. So you get the gist. And it also has dietary recommendations. So if anybody's interested in a diet profile chart or a medical profile chart, discussing those specifically, you can always hit me up on that as well at the AppleValleyAstrologer.com or at the Ray Reinhardt's Astrologer on Facebook.